Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about Myers-Briggs and the binary choices we make when we are very young and we are creating our personality. And understanding this will not only help us understand ourselves and other people and where they're coming from in their personality, but will give us a deep insight into, okay, well, if this is the personality, what is underneath that? Okay, this is just the mask, right, in me and in other people. And this is something deeper. This is just the awareness, the pure awareness that is underneath that. And I believe that understanding this, studying personalities, studying different kinds of personalities will give us very deep insight into this and perhaps even give us light in samadhi experience, in a union experience. So it gets very deep and very interesting, and I'll tell you a story about that at the very end. But first, let's get into these four primary drivers in personality that Jung put together and Myers-Briggs took off with. So let's get into it. So Jung said there are four primary choices that the child is making in the creation of its personality. And we say binary, it's really kind of a spectrum, right? So you're more this way or you're more this way within that spectrum, but it ends up being one or the other and not quite both. So it's in this sense of you're on one side or the other, more or less, it becomes binary. And so when you understand which side you are on or which side somebody else is on, you begin to pull apart their personality and understand where they're coming from and why you might have a communication difficulty. And this is why, Myers-Briggs put this all together. So you multiply four choices times four and you get 16 personality types. And Myers and Briggs went out to a bunch of corporations, said, hey, we can teach you how to understand your employees and your employees how to understand you. Are you interested? And they were. And it took off. It was a wildfire. They did fantastic. They went through corporation after corporation, and everybody loved understanding everybody else. And that's actually the books that you can get. I'm going to have links below. They're called Please Understand Me, number 1 and number 2. So there's 2 books. They're very worth reading, very deep information. It's all based on the understandings that Jung brought forth, which are those 4 binary choices that we make very, very early on. Now, as somebody who's very spiritual to say, well, I think maybe a lot of those choices are coming from your past lives, perhaps. Absolutely, that's absolutely a possibility. And yet we can still see the formation of it in the childhood. So it becomes very, very, very interesting. So the first binary choice is, are you going to be extroverted or are you going to be introverted? And so you're a little kid and you put yourself out there and you put yourself out there and you get rewarded. And so you say, oh, this is great. This works great. I'm going to be an extrovert. Or you put yourself out there, it's not rewarded. You go, this doesn't work. I think I'm going to choose to be an introvert and just kind of stay inside. And when you're an extrovert and you see an introvert, you say, oh my God, something's wrong with him. And when you're an introvert and you see the extrovert and he's like going crazy, you go, oh my God, something's wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with either of them. They're both these binary choices. Are you going to be extroverted? Are you going to be introverted? And as you become flexible with your personality, if I'm an introvert, I can explore being an extrovert. That's what I am. I'm an introvert, and here I am on YouTube exploring being an extrovert. And that gives you more balance. Or when you're an extrovert, you can explore being an introvert. So maybe you're an extrovert and you're coming on my channel and you enjoy being an introvert and getting more in touch with the deep meditation processes, which are primarily more introverted processes, right? And then you come back out and you're extroverted and you feel great because you had this downtime and this low idle state in the meditation. So everything in these choices, they all have value and they're all a spectrum. And if you're on one side, you can explore a little bit of the other side, and it will actually balance your personality and draw things out of you that you didn't even know you had. Some people have a hard time knowing if they're an extrovert or an introvert. And so the question for that is, where do you get your energy? Do you go out with your friends and hang out and have pizza and party and you get charged from that? Or do you sit at home with a book and read by the fire and that recharges you? Where does it really recharge you? That's how to find extrovert versus introvert. The next binary choice is, are you sensing or are you intuiting? And when Jung uses the word intuitive in this sense, he means imaginative. So are you going to make something like a desk and you're going to go out and feel the wood and shape the wood and feel the grain of the wood, or and feel everything. That's the sensor. I got to get my hands on it. Let's take what we're talking about and put it on the table, right? Let's put it here on the table where I can see it and I can feel it and I can put my hands on it, right? That's the sensor. And the intuitive is the one who is more imaginative. So we could make the desk this way. We could make it in an L shape. We could make it in a U shape. I think we could make it really fanciful. We could put all these colors on it. They're very, very imaginative, and they will focus on ideas, on the big picture, on creating new and interesting ideas, where the sensor might be more practical, down to earth, and grounded. Next, you have the two binary choices. Are we going to be a thinker or a feeler? And so the feeler, of course, will be more sensitive, more tuned in to how they feel. That doesn't feel right. We're going in this direction. I don't feel like this is the correct direction. Whereas the thinker is more analytical, and they make their decisions using logical and analysis. Well, the logical thing is that we proceed in this direction, and so that's the direction we're going to take because it is logical. And the feeler's going, I don't know, I think maybe we should feel it out this direction because this feels better to me. And so those are two binary choices about how we tend to make our decisions. And then the last binary choice is, are we going to be a judger or a perceiver? So the perceiver will leave things open. They're very spontaneous, where the judger likes to have things planned out, regimented, prepared, and they stick to the plan. And they're very comfortable following the rules, whereas the perceivers like to be extremely flexible in any instant. So those are the four primary binary choices that create the whole Myers-Briggs spectrum. So you get 4 times 4 choices in 4 directions, and it creates 16 distinct personalities. So here are the 16 core personalities. Now, of course, that's not going to describe all of what we are, all of what even our personality is, but it begins to help us give an idea of these 4 primary drivers that we chose from very, very young in our lives. So I'm going to have a link below for a free test that you can fill out and find out what you are, and then take a look here and begin to understand and study what your particular personality is tending towards. And then you can have the people who are closest in your life take the test as well. And now it gets very interesting. Oh my goodness, you're an extrovert and I'm an introvert. And every Saturday you would like to go out and go do something, go to a restaurant, go to a movie, go do something. And I would rather sit at home with a nice book curled up by the fire. Well, now it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? That's why we had that conflict in the past, and now it's very, very understandable, and we can communicate more easily and understand each other a little more easily. So you get a lot of insight from taking the test yourself, and then either imagining what somebody else might be or having them take the test and really getting a solid answer about that, really beginning to understand where there are personality conflicts between us. And you begin to think about it, you walk through your life, you meet people, and you don't instantly understand each other, and all of a sudden it makes sense. You went left and I went right when we were 3 years old. And so, of course, we're a little bit different, and we don't quite easily and understand each other. Isn't that amazing? So I invite you to check it out. I invite you to get the book and read about some of these personality types. I think it's really, really fundamental to understand these different binary choices that the personality, the mask of personality, is making very, very early on in childhood. And using that understanding, we can dive a little bit deeper and we can begin to understand that this is just the mask. So, what is underneath the mask? Well, it's the consciousness, the conscious awareness that made the binary choice in the first place. And so, understanding that you are not this mask, that you are something deeper, and actually studying the mask so you can differentiate between, okay, this is the mask and this is me, right? It is very, very deep. It's a very deep process. I really wonder if it had to do something with my own experiences with samadhi. And so stay with me for this, okay? So now there's a lot of spiritual teachings that will talk about samadhi as a kind of death. And I totally know what they're talking about. But when I experienced it, when I went into samadhi, there was no death. And I thought, well, that's very strange. And I really thought about this quite a bit. Why was there no death? Well, if you're very attached and to your personality, to the mask, and you think this is me, and then you find your way into a samadhi experience, a union experience, and suddenly that mask is gone, and all that's left is the conscious awareness, then you say, well, I died. Because you were identified with the personality, with the mask. But if you're not, and you have this deep notion that you are much more than that, that you are the conscious awareness that made the choice for the mask, it helps you to go into a samadhi and realize very quickly, oh, I didn't die. Just everything that I thought I was is suddenly gone, and now just the pure, pure me is there. What is that? Well, we call it the Purusha, or we call it the soul, right? This deep, deep conscious awareness, just pure, pure conscious awareness, right? And so I was thinking about this, and I was trying to understand why everybody kept saying that you die in meditation, and I get it, that personality is gone. It's winks out for a moment, and then we come back to it. And when you come back to it, by the way, you feel reborn. It's the personality feels fresh and new, so it's like a rebirth, isn't it? So you're coming away from the personality, going back into it, and the personality is in a sense reborn. And so I was thinking about all of this, and one of my very first students to go into a samadhi, he went very, very deep. He had a beautiful space. He merged with space, a space samadhi. And he came back out and he said, I died. And I said, really? I said, well, you weren't asleep, were you? He goes, oh, no. I said, okay, so you were consciously aware. Yes, I was totally aware. It was like I had an awareness that was beyond what I thought was aware. I said, okay, so what died? And he thought about it. And he goes, the words died. Meaning the left brain personality winked out of existence while he was in that non-dual state. Non-dual merging with pure, pure conscious awareness. If I'd left him alone and he'd listened to all of the spiritual teachings that he might have heard throughout his life, he might have believed that he actually died. But somewhere along the line, he would say, well, I'm still consciously aware, so it's kind of a little death. But if we ask him about it and we come with this perspective that nothing dies, it's just the personality that shuts down momentarily because it's not real. It's a mask. So there is no death, you see. The consciousness, awareness always persists, and there is no death in a union experience or in death. The personality will wink out. Now, I heard a Buddhist, and I forgive me, I don't know who it was, but I know it was a Buddhist, and they were talking about reincarnation, and they were saying, when you worry about if you're going to be reborn and you think about what is going to be reborn, you're probably not guessing on the part of you that's going to be reborn. So there is death, and there is something which persists. And you see what he's talking about. He's talking about the personality. It does pass away. But the true you, the consciousness, that stays, that is always there. Always. So I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope it was very interesting. I hope that you will take the Myers-Briggs test and find out what you are and maybe read about it in the book. And if you will go online and you will put in Myers-Briggs, put in Myers-Briggs funny, I think you will find some pictures where some people have put together kind of a visual roadmap of all of the different kinds of personalities by using movies or Harry Potter, or a bunch of stories or movies are available for you to take a look and try and begin to understand what, maybe you've studied Harry Potter and you haven't studied Myers-Briggs. Well, you can find the Myers-Briggs picture, which will tell you who is who in all of the Myers-Briggs in terms of Harry Potter. So it's a very fun way to investigate Myers-Briggs. But of course, the deeper dive is to actually read the book, or maybe begin to read about each of the personalities, and then to think about it and to find people in your life and then figure out where they fit within that personality system, so you begin to get some more insights into who they are and who you are, and the way that the two of you communicate and how that all fits together. It's really fascinating. And of course, at the end of the day, we begin to understand more and more. It's just a mask. It's just something we wear. It's like clothes. I put them on to go out into the world, and then when I come home, I take them off. I'm at home, asleep in my bed, right? It's the same thing in meditation, isn't it? I go through my life with this mask of personality, and then I sit in deep meditation, and I finally take it off and rest. And isn't that amazing and beautiful? So I hope you love this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you next time.